The underdog. The long shot. The nobody from nowhere, never gonna happen 100 to 1 shot. We know something about that. We're with you every step of the way.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the ultimate, the last, the final Thursday 30. I'm Matt Stradley here with John Williams, a very familiar face I'm sure everybody knows. AD, Dr. Janet Cohn. Janet, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. And I want to say before we start on this, I want to thank both you and John, and obviously our guys in communications too. Y'all have been wonderful to do this. And we were laughing before we went on the air. Have become a fan of y'all. Every week I watch these, a couple of them. I watch different parts of some of them a couple times. So thank you for doing this for us.
Oh, it's been a blast. And we do want to thank Ingles, our sponsor. Low prices, love the savings. Ingles Markets has been the sponsor of the Bulldog Thursday 30 throughout the entire series. John, familiar face with us today.
Oh, yeah. And I've gotten to know Janet as an athlete and now as a professional. And it's been just a tremendous learning experience to see her from a day-to-day basis and how she works, through the inner linings of athletics, and now being on more of an outside looking in approach, just seeing the impact that she has done for our program. I mean, since I've been there and just watching the growth. I mean, you look at UNC Asheville, 15 years ago to now. I mean, it's just tremendous on how we've grown so much. And a lot of that is due to the push that Janet's created. And so it's just been a fun ride and fun to watch. So, yeah.
Well, John, thanks for saying that, but I got to tell you, you're the example and the reason why we do what we do every day over here. Just to see you come through this program and how you developed yourself as a leader and now a professional and a husband and a father. Those are the things while we work the long days and do what we do, to see student athletes like you that just go out and truly become, not only a champion when you're here, but also a leader as you get out. So you just set me up for that, man. This is why we do what we do. You're the reason, you and our other student athletes. So thank you for recognizing what everyone in the athletic department's doing.
Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
And I know it's a busy time for the athletic department. There are a lot of things that have been decided, a lot of things that are still up in the air. I think our fans would love an update. What do you know about how everything's going for maybe a fall season? Just tell me what's going on with COVID preparations.
Well, I'll tell you one thing we're excited about today. As I'm sitting here in the Justice Center, I have my little windows. There is so much more activity on our campus today. I haven't seen this activity since we shut down back in March, just to see students and student athletes and a few more cars, because faculty and staff are transitioning back. So you get the sense like, hey, a new academic year is going to start. And so, we're thrilled about that. And obviously a lot of work has gone along since March until now, and a lot of learning, to tell you the truth, because I can't say that any athletic director in the country has ever dealt with this. So we're all learning at the same time, all sharing with each other. But we put together what we call a COVID-19 action team of our some folks in the athletic department, student athlete coaches, and our medical personnel to really put together a plan. And part of putting that plan together was reaching out to everyone we know in the business and some who don't work in athletics, where we can learn from what. But we've been transitioning back, and so now we get to see a little bit of that excitement of one step forward. So I can't tell you how much fun it's been today to see people walk by with their mask on, of course, and 6 feet apart, and using the hand sanitizers at their door. So I got to put that in, don't forget the 3 W's all the time. We have to really do that so we can continue to transition back.
And Janet, let me ask you this. I mean, I just actually got the opportunity to talk with Donovan Gilmore, and he came in to get his transcripts because he's planning on going to I think it's Tennessee State for grad school.
Yeah.
And he's super excited about that. And he said that I asked him just how was the pulse on the campus. He was just like, he had been on there, rode through once, and they said it was like a ghost town. And just to see some cars in there, to see a little bit of life, and to see some activity on the campus was very reassuring. But you know, what kind of breakdowns? Like, obviously, there's been education all the way across the board regarding our staff and our board, and but what about the process that the players, the athletes, are going to have to go through to make.
Well, John, that's a great question, because one of the things, you know, and we all learned this, and even when you were here, we all always talk about communication, and probably no more than now, or it's been more important than ever that we have good communication. And so even back in March, whether it was coaches or whether we were doing this as an athletic department, many Zoom meetings with group Zoom meetings, team Zoom meetings, SAC leadership meetings, where we're communicating and really trying to be transparent, sharing what we're trying to do, getting feedback. So that has been an ongoing process. As we've gotten a little clearer and gotten more guidance from the NCAA, the Big South, and the CDC, and our own folks on campus, we've developed certain educational protocols that every student athlete's going through. So I'll give you an example of this. You know, we started transitioning in phases, the staff and the coaches and the assistant coaches, and then what we call some voluntary workout, a group that got their physicals, were already in town. You know, we did testing with them. So we had education with them, not only about those 3 W's, but about how athletics is going to change when we go into the weight room, we're doing sports medicine. Your coach is going to now be wearing a mask. So those have been continuous. We now have moved to another phase of this where we've got student athletes who are coming back in different groups. Like the first, I guess Terry calls it the 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? On August the 2nd, a group that came on campus, you know, to move back to Asheville to live in the dorms and those kinds of things. Well, that group, we were on another Zoom educational setup yesterday, going over, once again, I call them fundamentals. You guys know this from any sport. You got to learn the fundamentals. Well, we got some new fundamentals to learn, and probably those will continue to change as we learn more and more about what works and what doesn't work. So continually educating them about what they need to do, and learning some new words, obviously, too, like, you know, you're going to be working in functional units, and some people call them bubbles. You know, this is your group. This is a group of you that are trying to work together, practice together, work out together, try to spend time together. So it's really been an ongoing process, and I feel like the student athletes, and we also have been doing educational sessions with the parents and the guardians and keeping them up to date. You know, like say you mentioned about our Bulldog boards and some other of our friends, but we spent a lot of time on Zooms trying to make sure that everybody understands what we're trying to do and how we're going to try to implement this.
Outstanding.
I want to take us away from COVID just because I would love to not have to think about COVID just for a second. They tried to hold a NCAA basketball tournament without you on the committee, and it just didn't work.
That's funny you said that. You know, it was kind of, I don't know if it was great or not so great, but I had just rotated off the committee. So this was my first year. I was obviously very excited because I got to watch more of the Bulldogs and travel with my own team more. And even as we were getting down to the women's team was still in the Big South tournament when they got pulled out of the tournament and was told to come home. And probably more than anything, this was going to be my first men's Final Four to go as an alum, where I could, enjoy and not have to work. And lo and behold, it gets shut down. So I'm sort of glad I was not in that room. I think that would have been very, very hard to deal with because that was all evolving that week of selection week. What to do, stay, not play, stop tournaments, what kind of decision are we going to make as institutions, as conferences, and then ultimately the NCAA saying no men's basketball Final Four.
I assume that whole landscape's going to look a lot different moving forward. Wouldn't you say?
John, you kind of broke up a little bit. Ask that question again.
I assume that that landscape is going to look a lot different moving forward now that you have these safety protocols that you have to put into play there. Because obviously we got hit with the loop there last year where nobody was prepared for anything. And so I feel that there's going to be a lot of plan Bs and plan Cs as far as planning for this thing moving forward, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think for, and kind of go, I'm gonna answer that question. I'm gonna go back because I really think we're all breaking this down in phases. And I've told the student athletes, and phase one is just getting you back to college life, in your education. How do we do that safely? Phase two is, can we learn how to practice safely again? Say all of a sudden, who would have thought you're going to be practicing and lifting weights with a mask on and having the hand sanitize and one way, come in one way, go out another way, no cross. So that's phase two. Phase three is when and if we can figure out how to actually compete against each other, because that's a whole different ball game when you decide you're putting somebody on a bus or a plane or a van to travel. And then realizing that, the NCAA has given us some guidance about certain sports are a little more high risk than others. So you have like tennis and golf, who people have been playing this summer, a different, like we know our friends at Walnut Cove and the Country Club of Asheville, they've found a way to do golf even in the middle of this summer. So those sports are, has a different practice protocol, a different travel protocol, maybe a different competition. But then you get into, and since we were talking about men's basketball, women's basketball, those sports, along with volleyball and a few others, are high risk. So now you're inside a facility, not outdoors, because we know outdoors is even a little safer than indoors. But running a basketball game or a volleyball match, thinking about, and you guys will know this. Okay, so what are we going to do with the guys, the personalities on the scores table who are doing the ESPN Plus or who are doing radio? Are y'all going to have to sit 6 feet apart? Are you going to have to wear your mask? Are we going to have fans? So you're right. So we've got all these different protocols. If and when we start playing again against someone else, will we have fans, or will it be like the NBA, like we're going to pump in some noise and maybe show some things in the background that looks like fans? So all of us have been working on that to learn how we could bring college sports back safely. First and foremost for the student athletes and the coaches and the people that have to run the games. And then at what point in time do you bring fans back?
Is it difficult to coordinate with everybody that you have to coordinate? Because you're coordinating with everybody within your institution. You're coordinating with everyone on the conference level, at the NCAA level. You're talking to the CDC. That's a ton of conversations.
A ton of conversations, and to be real clear, and you guys notice the NCAA is providing guidelines. The Big South is providing guidance, but ultimately each university, and for us, since we're part of the University of North Carolina system, our president, we have chancellors on each campus, but the president of the system is ultimately going to be the ones telling us, what we can and cannot do as universities. And certainly we have to follow the university's protocols too. So you're right, it's coordinating, and, Zoom meetings are so important because of that. And I think y'all know, because y'all both have said you learned so much as you've learned to do ESPN and kind of learn your craft. We're still learning. So, those phone calls or those emails or those guidelines that come out, you're constantly changing, trying to make them better. So I feel like somebody said this yesterday, I can't even remember. Or it might have been my good friend, Peter Roby. He's going to do our welcome back on Sunday through Zoom. He said, remember all the things that we've learned as athletes and coaches. Have game plans, and you have the best game plan in the world, but all of a sudden, you got a good player that gets injured or something doesn't go the way somebody fouls out. We already have a lot of skills to adapt. What we have to get better at is learning the knowledge to deal with COVID-19, but we have that resilience, we have that teamwork, collaboration, we already learned that from being athletes and coaches and staff members in athletics. So now how do we learn as much as we can about something that we've never experienced, but yet use those skills that we all talk about? But a reason we all love athletics, we're learning things that we can use in life, and we're using those right now. Even that good old encouragement, like, love that about a team environment. When you're down, your teammates pick you up, and the same thing, since March. Somebody might be down one day, but one of the teammates is picking them up and encouraging them. That's the same way it's been with our coaches, our staff, and our student athletes. And really on our campus, Chancellor Cable has been wonderful. We're being realistic, but we're also being supportive of each other. And I think a lot of those skills you learn because you're an athlete.
Miss Janet, are you getting 9 hours of sleep or?
No, I'm not getting 9 hours, but I never got 9 hours of sleep, John. So you probably realized this when you were coming over to the Justice Center before we opened the Sherrill Center in Kimmel Arena. I always came to work early and stayed late, and but my feeling about this, and I still feel this way, is I love what I do. I love the student athletes and the coaches, and not embarrassed to say that I really love the people. Therefore, what I do is my job doesn't feel like work. So sometimes, somebody else might say, gee, you've been there 12 hours. You've been working. I'm like, no, I've just been doing something that I enjoy a lot, trying to help people have a good experience in college athletics. So, but it's been still some long days. And even though we haven't had any competitions, but I'll never, ever say I'm tired of watching basketball or soccer or swimming or any of those things. I can't wait to watch them again in person.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Now, Matt, I am gonna tell you this. There'd be some times when I was in campus and I would obviously we woke up early all the time to do workouts or something like that.
Yeah.
And Janet's office was the one, like if you were to go the pool entrance, the first window to the left, and that we would see that light on. We were like, man, did Janet sleep? And then, there'd be certain times, like, and I'm talking about late at night, and we'd try to go into the gym or something like that. Janet, I'm not saying that we snuck into the gym or anything, but if we saw your light, we turned back. We turned back.
Well, I think a lot of that too is for having been a former coach too, and I think sometimes people think coaches, you're a basketball, soccer, you're only busy during the season, but we've learned a long time ago, if you love what you're doing, you don't mind putting in the time, and it's not even like putting in the time flies, because, but you only do it because of the people. There's so many things, like we don't like COVID-19. I'll tell you that right now. We don't like COVID-19. We don't like having to do 7 or 8 Zooms a day. But, you mix all that together, things you don't like actually allows you to do the things that you love, which is college athletics and helping young people. And John knows this too. I'm passionate about our student athletes, but I'm also passionate about helping coaches. I really love being a coach and had a great experience. So anytime I can help coaches be successful and staff members too, because, I have great staff and Terry Burney and David Jander and Betsy, and I could just go on, and our Harmon's so great with the ticket sales. I mean, we've put together a pretty good team here during the years that really care about each other and really are proud of what we've done. And I say we because we are Bulldogs, and this group of Bulldogs work as hard as anybody in the country to help our student athletes. And, Rebecca Nelms, John, how Miss Rebecca's here all the time too.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about COVID, but there's another thing that's going on. That's, I guess, the conversation shifted in May from COVID to social justice, to Black Lives Matter. As you're getting the students back, is that a conversation you're trying to continue?
Yeah, that conversation, we're not going to stop that conversation. And this, this is something I actually told Rebecca this the other day, because Rebecca's been very involved, and we've had a chance to really get to know a lot of our present student athletes better and our alums better and some of our community members. There's always something good that comes out of something bad, where it's COVID-19 or, you know, right now the good part is Black lives do matter. And we're going to not only have a conversation just because something happened, we're going to keep that going. So we've been very fortunate. We formed a advisory group of some student athletes, some alums, a couple faculty, and student government president. And you know, we actually had our first meeting last week, and I was just blown away that we are all committed, that we're going to do things not only in our athletic department, get more involved in our campus and our community. With our focus right now is going to be that Black Lives Matter, and that's our focus. And how do we get better? And John, you know this too. One of your good friends, Joey Harrell's very involved in this, one of our alums. So the good part about this is it's allowed me, in the midst of this COVID-19, it's allowed something that we can feel very positive about, that we can actually change and do better. You know, COVID is still something we're learning and whatever. And with the Black Lives Matter, just seeing how passionate our student athletes are about this, and faculty and our coaches, and, you know, Clifton Bush, I mean, I could just go, Woody is involved in this. That is something that we're going to do, not just, you know, today, but tomorrow and the next day. We're going to do that whether we're in person, not in person, whether we practicing, not practicing. We feel like it's going to be, could be for Rebecca and I and Betsy, it's a couple of us, and Aaron Punter now have been here almost 17 years, a little longer. I said, this could be our one of the things that we, I guess, when our signature kind of moments that we feel like, wow, this is something we can really help. And so really, I just can't even put it in words, like what I've learned from Joey Harrell, to tell you the truth. Because, you know, all of us in athletics, we think, well, we got this, but we don't have this. I think athletics can help change this, definitely. And I think that one of the things that some of us sit around and think that we don't have more to learn about this, and we do. And so I know several of us in athletic, we've done the 21-day challenge. I'm on like 42 days. I just feel like I have so much more to learn, you know, to educate myself so that I can see how I can be helpful and how I can use my leadership position to really make change. And like I say, that I think that's something. We've been hosting those humanity talk series about once every month, or maybe sometimes every 3 weeks or so. And those have been great participation, some conversations that we all need to have. And I think we'll continue those. And we have some other things that we're planning, some initiatives with voter registration, because we feel like some of the change is going to come by, you know, it's the people we elect and put in office. We got to change policies and laws and make things different. So we're going to play our small part, and hopefully that small part will just get bigger and bigger and make bigger changes as we go forward.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate UNC Ash for really tackling this, you know, the issue passionately, and as passionately as they did. You know, I know that Joey's on that advisory board, and one of the things, and he's my partner also. And so one of the things we do is we always talk and have conversation. We've gotten on phone calls with some of our former alum that we've played with, and had some great conversations, some great dialogue. And the thing is, you know, it's been fun to see the education process, not only from you know, people of color, but people that are white. You know, seeing them also you know, have moments of clarity where, you know, you see growth start to happen. And so I was really proud of my school for definitely attacking the issue as aggressively as they did, letting the student athletes have a platform to vent, but also to share their experiences, their stories, and have a voice. And as student athletes, sometimes you can get lost in the idea that you do not have a voice. And I thought the UNC Asheville did a great job empowering their student athletes, their staff, to be able to speak on those things and to have a voice on those things. And that was just an amazing thing to watch, and it's still amazing to hear, the stories and things that Joey brings back when we talk, from those conversations.
Well, you're doing something right when people keep showing up. Lots of people start groups or boards or committees, and everybody's gung-ho like the first time. But if people keep coming back, that you've got something going on that we can do. So, but I also want to comment from the university perspective. And actually we have this Chancellor Senior Staff meeting tomorrow. This has been not only a topic on our senior staff agenda, but we're actually putting together right now, for a better name of it, it's just a roadmap of where we want to go as a university. So it's not just, the athletics is going to roll right up into what the university is going to do, and the university is going to lead the way on this with Chancellor Cable and Provost Kai Campbell, who's been on one of our humanity talks, one of the times that we hosted that. So I think we're going to see the university really step forward and do even more, John. So thanks for acknowledging that. I think that's a great point.
We've asked you a lot of tough questions in the last 30 or so minutes. And so I wanted to get to know the you just a little bit more. I want to know why since we met a decade ago, why I look like I've aged 30 years and you look the exact same, and I don't understand it.
You just made my day. Although I would say that's a great thing about Zoom. You can look a little younger on Zoom because if you really keep your face back away and all that. But thanks for saying that. I think the other part about this, and once again, both of you realize this because you've been around athletics. I think being an athletic director, being a coach, first of all, because you are around young people, you stay young at heart. And when I start not having that, what I call that little extra kick in my step, it's probably time, your time to move on. So one, you stay young at heart. Number two, I realized a long time ago, not when I was an athlete, because when the coach is making you do it, you're just like, oh my. But, I want to stay as healthy and be a role model for that part of athletics too. Like, how do you take care of yourself, and how do you get the right rest, and you work out and try to stay fit too. So I think it's important because I want to keep doing this for as long as I can. I want to, and I think Eddie was that way too, John. Eddie stayed young at heart and still is young at heart and stayed fit. And, those are the people that have a much longer longevity in a college career. But you have to stay young at heart too, and really be willing to learn and realize things change. The student athletes, even since John was here, student athletes have changed a lot. And you talked about voice. Student athletes have a powerful voice, and there was a time when coaches and athletic directors didn't want to listen to those voices, and now I embrace that because they have a lot to say. They have good suggestions. They want to be part of, can we help? And so I have more student athletes involved on different kinds of things we're doing in athletics than we ever have, and I really appreciate that. But I think that's the thing that we got to keep. To stay young, you got to be willing to keep learning.
So, Janet, there's something I must admit to you.
Okay.
Me and Matt have talked about this on TV before. It'll be a little, it'll be like they'll have a photo of you or a video of you walking around. And I'm like, I've seen Janet for, over 13, 14 years. And she hasn't aged a bit. And so we then started thinking, well, what's going on here? Like, what kind of regimen is she on? If she's not on any regimen, she's got to be a vampire. And so we were like, we were like, well, what's going on here? Because I was just like, every single time we'd see, we'd be like, she hasn't aged a day. And so we got to know your regiment.
Okay.
You said that she liked to work pretty late at night, so I was wondering.
Yep. You want to know my regimen. My regimen is I get up every day at 4:30. And I do some quiet time, devotionals, kind of get myself going. But I always work out in the morning before I come to work, or sometimes I'll actually, I'll bike or jog or whatever I'm doing, depending on the weather. And I mix it up now. I'm not as young as I used to be, so I can't pound the pavement as much running. So I get all that done, and usually I'm ready to go take a shower, and I'm heading to work. Or now that I have my little Sam Comb, my little dog, though, remember I got a little responsibility. So poor Sam has to get up early a lot. And, I head over here, and that's important to me. But I claim also, I try to eat really much better salads and all that, healthy food that we all learn that's better for us, so we live longer and stay healthy as possible. But as y'all know, I have one weakness, and anybody can tell you, I can eat my body weight in ice cream. And that means every day. I am going to eat ice cream every day. And actually, Aaron Punter Spence sent me something. There's some research that says that people that eat ice cream for breakfast are more intelligent or something like that. So
yeah, I've seen that too. My kids try to use it against me.
But I don't eat it for breakfast. But anytime I can get a hold of the hop and Bulldog Tracks or any of that, I'm going to have my ice cream daily. So when you see me at basketball games, you probably notice eventually I work myself around to the hop.
Yep.
Like the 3 triple scoop size, and people kind of look at me like, "Lady, can you eat all that?" I'm like, "Yes, I can eat all this. Trust me."
Is that the flavor of choice, Bulldog Tracks?
Yeah, well, I'll pretty much eat about any kind of ice cream, to tell you the truth. That's the one thing I just love. Ice cream, always have. Trademark. If you were on one of my teams when I was coaching, you can ask them. After every game, we're going to find a place to stop for ice cream. I guarantee it. Somewhere along the line.
Wow.
It's either a celebration or a commiseration. It's good either way.
It doesn't matter. You're right. We're eating it no matter what. Celebrate, sadness, it'll help you anytime. He's got a smile on John's face right now. He's thinking.
Yeah. I wish Eddie liked ice cream. I think Eddie liked pasta a little bit more.
Yeah, I've been on some of Eddie's road trips with you guys. Like we know where we're going to stop. Some buffet and all you can eat.
Yep. Yeah. Eddie can put some food away.
Yeah.
Oh, John, do you have any other questions? Any burning questions for AD Cohn? We've got her held hostage here for a little bit longer.
No, I mean, hey, one of the things we had talked about before, and we were like, when are we going to muster up the courage to ask her, was what kind of regiment she was on. We did that. I'm pumped up about that. I'm glad that now everybody knows the Janet Cohn regiment to continue to flourish through life. But no, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah.
I thought one thing that I was the most impressed about, and not to talk about you while you're still here, but I'm going to. I'm always impressed when people in leadership positions say that they don't know and that they're willing to do the work to learn. To me, that is something that is becoming a lost art. It's the admission that you're not perfect because you're in a position of leadership. There's some defensiveness there, but you're saying, hey, look, I don't know all that I need to know, and I'm educating myself to get there, specifically around conversations with social justice and Black Lives Matter. And to me, I think that is a fantastic behavior to model.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I will tell you, UNC Asheville is a perfect example of this. In my school, anybody that gets a liberal arts education, that is one thing you will learn if you go to a UNC Asheville or Furman. I got to put in a plug for my Furman because this is where I learned this. You will learn to be a lifelong learner because you will realize that the world changes and you've got to be willing to learn what you need to know right now. And so I think a lot of my passion for learning has been fueled by my education. And that's why I say UNC Asheville is doing that so much. I mean, and I hate to keep using John, but John's a great example of this. I mean, you think about when he was here, he's playing basketball, he had his career with the Harlem Globetrotters and those things. But he took what he learned and he's turned himself into a businessman who's taken a passion and he's learned how to do that. And I see that a lot with our UNC Asheville graduates. It's those critical skills, you know, how they problem solve and create, and they're just developing for what's happening now. And they'll continue to learn and continue to do great things. So I think that's a critical thing. I've seen this more than ever through this COVID-19 too, that some of the things that I think have been important that I've learned is I don't need to have every answer, but I do need to be more present with anytime you're going through what people are saying, a crisis, a big challenge, you know, whether it's on Zoom, whether it's on the phone, you know, your presence is so important. You do not have to have every answer, but you do need to be available to people. And I think, you know, one of the things I learned this from Tom Hand, and Tom actually got us to develop this for our sort of 3 things that we agreed, coaches and myself, that we're going to be trustworthy, we're going to be transparent, and we're going to be accountable. And so I think some of those things, in order to be trustworthy, you have to be able to say, hey, I don't know sometimes. You can't make it up and act like you know, and then they find out later you don't really know what you're talking about. So those 3 things have really helped our athletic department, and actually, you know, I remind myself of those every day. You know, how can I be a trustworthy person? How can I be as transparent as possible with the people that are depending on us, and hold each other accountable? You know, that we got to show up every day and do the best we can, knowing it's not going to be perfect. And so y'all got to ask me questions. As I've noticed y'all doing these shows, how about if I turn this around on YouTube?
No.
Oh, yeah. Here's a question I want to ask y'all, because y'all do the ESPN and you know, you're out there. What's the hard, how long does it take you to prepare? I don't think people really understand that. I mean, you don't just show up at a game, or you don't show up like right now to do this. So I mean, how long does it take you to prepare for a game, like a typical basketball game or a volleyball match or whatever you're actually broadcasting?
Let's walk through a basketball broadcast. So let's say it's a team that John knows somebody who's on the coaching staff. John will call that coaching staff. We'll watch 1 or 2 games from that team.
Yeah, we'll watch 1 or 2.
And we'll talk about which games we watch, so we're not watching the same games. And then we'll come together and compare our notes. I'll be like, well, I saw a 2-3 zone. And John goes, yeah, it was all man on my side. So we'll know that they can switch up defensively depending on what the offense is doing. So we'll go through all our notes. We'll compile all the stats that we can into one centralized spot. John does a really good job of getting backstory. And telling the story of the players on the broadcast. And he breaks, and this is when I mark out. This is when I'm a huge John Williams fan, and when he can break down a defense that we didn't see on any of our tapes, and he can do it live and in person, it's one of my favorite things in the world, because we've spent 15 to 20 hours getting ready for this game, and then they run out a 1-3-1 zone press that they haven't before, and John knows what to do with it.
Yeah, that's the fun part too. It's just doing the homework and studying, watching game film. It's like I'm back in the locker room sitting with Nick and Brett and just going over, you know, the plays and trying to anticipate why they run what they run based on their personnel, and then really going into the nuances of it. And then also, you know, creating a narrative for, you know, players to understand that they're not just athletes, that it's a journey that they went through in order to get where they are. And it's usually a fun one. And usually, and Janet, I know you know this, but a lot of coaches are long-winded. And the ones that are, once you get into a sweet spot talking about a player that they may like, or that they've got a story about, they're passionate about it, and then we're able to really get a great story for the viewers to really dig into, and also get to know that person on the level that that coach knows them. And so that's always fun, is doing that type of homework. I mean, it's usually 2-3 days, depending on how many games we have in a week. But, you know, just watching the film, creating our own scouting reports, bringing our scouting reports together, and so that we can figure out, like, who's the player to watch, what are the strengths and weaknesses of these programs, how can they use them against each other, what the keys to the game are going to be to win that game. And then it all, you know, then it all comes out when the camera's on. And so it's just been a blast to be able to do something like that.
Well, thanks for sharing that, because I think people might not realize all the hours you put in, and this is not your full-time job. Y'all both have families and jobs and other commitments, but it's a lot of work. I love it when you do the stories. And then my other favorite part, when y'all are doing games, because remember, I might be at the game a lot of times, but sometimes I'm not on the road or whatever. I'm always trying to watch and go back and watch some games. I love how y'all have great teamwork, how you can kind of play off each other. You add some humor to it. I mean, it makes it really, I mean, I think the two of you are as professional as anybody we're going to see at any of the ESPN, because you do your homework. And I think that's another lesson that, you know, we try to tell student athletes. You can't skip the process to be successful. You got to do all the work behind it. So maybe we ought to have one more of these shows where we ask you guys questions.
It's fun either way. As long as I'm with my guy Matt, I'm having a blast. And his birthday came up recently, and so I made a post about his birthday, and I had a picture of LeBron throwing an alley, or Dwayne Wade throwing an alley-oop to LeBron James. And honestly, like, Matt's done a fantastic job of just setting me up to be myself, and to be able to just, you know, share my knowledge on the game. But then also our back and forth I feel like it's unparalleled. Like, I really have got a thing. And so I've just really enjoyed being on there with that guy, and just being able to really just attack games, but then study, because he's not only just a fun guy when it comes to this stuff, but also, you know, beyond our broadcast, he's a fun guy. Yeah, so.
Thanks.
Well, I can't wait. We're living for the day where y'all are back on courtside during our games. You know, that's what we want to get to. That'll be the phase when we get back to competition. Then we move forward again. So I want to thank y'all for all y'all are doing. I don't think people realize how much work that people that are doing broadcasting has to do in order to be really good at it. And both of you are very good. So thanks for covering the Bulldogs for us.
It's a blast. I'm having an absolute blast working with John. The chemistry that you see on the air, it's organic. We call each other when we're not on the air, and that's what you're going to hear. I get to work with a fantastic friend, and we get to share our love of whatever sport it may be. And we get to lift up these fantastic athletes and tell stories. And I mean, what else could you ask for?
Yeah, because you gotta watch our man John there. He'll be down there at Upstate doing soccer and other. So I'm like, John, you just gotta go, man.
Yeah.
Not just basketball, no way.
Yeah.
He likes sports, man. I'm down with that.
I'll dance with some soccer. I'll dance with some baseball and softball, and you know, I'm a student, so I want to learn as much about the different sports, and also seeing the similarities in those sports as well. It's just been fun. One thing that we do here on Thursday 30 is we get to meet up and converse with coaches that are in different sports.
Yeah.
And we find all those similarities, and it's great. And so it's fun, but usually I will revert back to basketball and just saying, like, hey, every sport has a different method of trash talk. Tell me yours. And sometimes they're similar, sometimes they're not. But, you know, it's been fun to get to know all the different programs beyond just the basketball part. And And it definitely helps when it comes to studying different sports as well. So it's been a blast.
Let me ask this: do ADs trash talk?
Not where anybody can hear us, no. No way. But my AD friends, you know, I've been in the business now so long. It's been nice to have so many friends. And I met so many wonderful ADs through being on the men's basketball selection committee. And now through COVID-19, I'll add this to Bubba Cunningham and Kim Reckert at Bubba obviously at Chapel Hill and Kim at UNC Greensboro. We've been convening the system ADs, and we're actually going to have a little Zoom update this week. You know, and you know, a lot of times you're so busy, you don't have a lot of time to kind of really get to know people that way. And it's been really great to just share some of the things and support each other. And, you know, you're not always competitors. Sometimes when you're doing things like what we're doing right now, just that support that you can pick up the phone and somebody can say, hey, why don't you try this? Or it's going to be okay. We're all going to figure out how to come through this. So that's one of my favorite parts right now about being an athletic director, is how all of us in college athletics are trying to support each other through this. And we're going to come out on the other side, no doubt about it.
And we're certainly looking forward to celebrating on the other side with you.
Big Bull, we're going to have a big, whenever we can all get back together, we're going to have one of the biggest, as Chancellor Cable said, a big old Bulldog blast party or something when we all can figure out how to do that safely again. Because one of the things that you probably realize at our basketball games and volleyball and other sports that y'all come and watch and talk about, people in Asheville really love the social part of college athletics, and especially at like UNC Asheville, we can get close to the players and the coaches and the chancellor and hopefully the AD. Everybody knows everybody, and we are missing each other. So we're going to have us a big old Bulldog blast here at some point in time.
I'm looking forward to it, John. You'll be there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I definitely want to thank Ingles. Ingles Market has been our sponsor on the Thursday 30. Ingles Market's low prices, love the savings. And John is one of their produce advisors. He sends in suggestions unsolicited every now and then, so that's fantastic.
Some of them are good too, John. I've caught a few.
They are. I'm a fan of exotic fruits and just produce in general. And I'll just send a suggestion from time to time and just say, hey, have you tried this yet? And, you know, obviously my time playing with the Globetrotters and going to 50 different countries, I've tried some stuff that you usually don't see. But I've actually seen some of those things from time to time at Ingles, and I am pleasantly surprised. And so I'll tell them, I'll give them a good review. Hey, you guys had this. And so, you know, I let them know, like, hey, if you guys do get the chance, maybe try this out. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they do it. Sometimes I'll see it in my Ingles. Sometimes I don't. But it's they've been receptive to me, and that's been nice.
Yeah, and they certainly have been a great, not only Bulldog corporate partner, but community partner here. Not just now, but through the years they've been with us, and Melissa and all those folks out there have been so helpful, and we're thrilled that they are here, they're with us, and that we can call them Bulldog friends. So thanks for mentioning that, Brad. They're a great sponsor.
I do also want to thank David and Brian, who behind the scenes have done all the work to make these Thursday 30 look as professional as they are, as professional as they can when I'm involved. I appreciate all their hard work, getting the words of these coaches and administrators now across. Athletic Director Janet Cohn, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here today.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. And as I always say, let's go Bulldogs.
I'm in. John, let's get out there and let's call some games, man. Let's go.
I'm hoping for it. Here's the hope.
Oh, I got my fingers crossed. I got my toes crossed. And thanks. I don't know, man. I'm going to try. It's like a yoga thing. And we thank you, the fans, for tuning in to the Thursday 30 throughout the summer. It's been our absolute pleasure to give you a little bit of an inside look to Bulldogs athletics, and we look forward to getting back together as safely and as soon as possible.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.